Well, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the webinar for Wealth Builders. I am so very thrilled to be able to greet you, first of all, but also to let you know that we've got an amazing webinar tonight. We've got David Briggs and my own David Metcalf that are on tonight, and they're going to be sharing on how to build a profitable nonprofit. I know that that sounds maybe a little like, what? But it's very important that we know how to get cash flow and how to keep our nonprofit going. And so I just want to give David and David a quick opportunity to say hi, and then I'm going to go to having everybody communicate to us where they're chiming in from. So David Briggs, do you want to greet everybody tonight?
It's great to be with you guys this evening. I'm really excited about being able to just kind of interact and get a kind of a 30,000 foot view of some different possibilities that could lead into this weekend as we drill down on the workshops and stuff. So hopefully there'll be something there that will be beneficial for you tonight.
Oh, I know anything that you have to say, David, is beneficial. So everybody's in for such a treat. And Dave Metcalf, do you want to greet everybody tonight?
Yes, I sure will. Thank you very much for having us, Karen and audience. I'm so excited about this time, and especially listening to the master, David Briggs. I'd encourage you to take notes, and especially all of his like one-liner elements that just really zing out the ideas here. It's going to be really great.
Yeah, if some of you have not heard David Briggs speak, you are in this for such a treat. He is amazing. When we talk about him at home, we're just like, man, David Briggs is amazing. Like the stuff he says, and anytime we talk to him, either Dave or I, it's like we get this whole thing of wisdom along with humor. So I'm just telling you, you are in for a real treat. We also have tonight Frank Pulley and Troy Peterson, our real estate coaches. So Frank, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everybody. You are in for a treat. I never get enough time with David Briggs, so I'm looking forward to spending the next hour with him. So thanks for joining us.
Amen. And Troy Peterson.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be here tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. Yes, you are in a treat. Look, I've even got my pen and pad ready to take some notes because there's going to be lots of great wisdom shared tonight.
There really is. Thank you so much. And as David mentioned, this is an interactive webinar. And that means that we're going to answer questions at the end of here. We're going to leave about 15 minutes open to answer any questions that you have. But you know what? We want to know where you are tuning in from. So would you please take a moment and let us know? Here we go. We've got Andrew Birchfield from Columbus, Texas. Yay, that's awesome, Andrew. Victoria is tuning in from the UK. I love it. We've got international people. Victoria, thank you. I'm sure it's pretty late there, so thank you so much. All right, we've got Tanera from Colorado Springs. Tanera, it's so good to hear from you. Oh my goodness, what a blessing. We have Aaron that's tuning in from Helena, Montana, or Helena. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. We've got Carolyn that's tuning in from northern New Mexico. Wilson from Brazil, welcome. We've got Dennis Vellen, hello. Thank you so much. He said he's from his car. That's so funny. We've got Cheryl tuning in from Colorado Springs. We've got Jamie from Texas, Promise from Nigeria. Welcome, Promise. We've got, Wilson is telling us that he is from Rio de Janeiro. Amazing. Cedric, so good to see you from Gig Harbor, Washington. Melissa from Woodland Park, Joshua from South Africa, Cynthia from Houston, Michael and Mercedes. They're our coaching clients. We love you guys. Coming in from England, Kathy from Prescott, Arizona, Dennis Jones from Grover Beach, California, Rick from Colorado Springs. My goodness, we are so grateful to have all of you. And I just want you to know that Billy and Becky so appreciate you. They consider you as part of their family, the Wealth Builders family. And we are just so grateful for all of you. Also, a quick reminder, we've got a couple more coming in. We've got Rick from Colorado Springs, Michael from Woodland Park, Robin from Beaumont, California. You're all tuning in. Let us know where you're coming from. It's great. Just a reminder that this weekend is the weekend that we've got the business and nonprofit workshop. We have got a handful of tickets available yet for the in-person. And what you're going to hear tonight from David Briggs, and then my Dave Metcalf is going to chime in a bit too, is on the nonprofit side. But you know, when we have a business, when we are serving God and we love Jesus, there is a nonprofit heart that is behind everything. And a lot of our real estate coaching clients, a lot of our business coaching clients, they also have nonprofits. So this is going to be very beneficial for you if you have a ministry or you want to start a ministry. This weekend, we're going to have workshops for you to help you to maximize the vision that God has given you. And we've got a special code. So if you are going to attend in person or live stream, use the code WB200. That is going to give you $200 off the registration. And the team will put the link up. It's wealthbuilders.org/events. And we would love to see all of you there. All right, so just a couple more. We've got Lewis on, and he said he is ready to take notes, David Briggs. So without any further ado here, I'm going to turn it over to David Briggs.
Hey guys, well, this subject is such a wide variety subject, and it's also kind of a moving target because laws change, and then also you have the international piece. Some of the charitable laws internationally are not the same as charitable laws in the States. So some of the stuff we're going to share is going to be U.S. specific. And then we can also talk about internationally and how it flows. Fundamentally, what we want to I want to start with is just explaining that a lot of people say, well, you know, I want to start a nonprofit. And as a business person, or as an entrepreneur, or as someone who is a person of wealth, there are several different ways that you can fund a nonprofit. One, everybody talks about, well, I want to start my own nonprofit. That's just one way. And so there are, 26 to 30 different types of nonprofit organizations in the States, 501c3s. But fundamentally, what I want to share with you when you're constructing a nonprofit, the first thing I want to share is that nonprofit doesn't mean no profit. It is an organization that becomes a vehicle, and that's all it is. When we talk about donor advised funds, charitable remainder trusts, 501c3s, private foundations, grants, endowments, you hear all of this verbiage, and you think, well, what do I have to do nonprofit work? The truth is, as an entrepreneur, a person of wealth, you can do charitable work out of your business, out of the wealth that you create. Fundamentally, the reason nonprofits were established was to have a vehicle to be able to have tax benefits for donors. And but it's like anything else you do when you interact with governments anywhere in the world. Anytime you get a privilege or a licensure from the government, you are giving up certain measures of control, reportability, and if you're having the government provide a vehicle for you, you're also giving up certain rights, because rights are the currency you use to purchase the security or the advantages from the government. And they're going to collect and monitor taxes, revenue, whether you're doing internationally, you're doing it, you're trying to do your nonprofit work. So I want you to understand the truth of a nonprofit is not the structure, it's the mission. What every person, every human being has a philanthropy or a faith. Finances or a resource has no soul. Resource takes on the soul of the person that possesses it. So whether your passion is to save the world or your passion is to blow the world up, it doesn't matter. The resources but take on the soul and the direction of the person that possesses the resource. And so what we need to understand is that the truth of a nonprofit, the first thing we have to realize is that as we're making sense of making money to make a difference. So is that with God as your stakeholder or a shareholder in your business, the wealth that you have, just more than just paying tithes and giving offerings, is that if God's a shareholder, he should also be a recipient of dividends. In other words, if shareholders get a dividend, are you giving God a dividend if he's truly a shareholder? So your wealth, you have two pockets of finance that you use, and that is your investment in your money for a return. That's your ROI on your wealth. And that is, if I'm investing my money, then I will get a certain amount back. But the ROI for your nonprofit or your philanthropy is not money back, but it's the social impact that you're making. What's your social agenda? What is your passion? For example, I use a lot of times the example of the DeVos family. They give multiple millions of dollars to education, but they're not going to give a penny or a nickel to other things because their philanthropy is education. That's where their passion is. So when we talk about building a nonprofit relationship, the first thing we have to realize is that if you're wanting to finance your nonprofit, is that it's like water. Water's free, but it costs a lot of money to pipe it places. So your nonprofit is a tool or a way that you pipe your finances to where you want it to land. And so when you create a nonprofit, the first thing you're doing is you're establishing your mission statement or your objective, and you're saying, this is our faith, this is our philanthropy, this is what we want to do, whether it's education or whether it's saving animals or saving the planet or sharing the gospel and kingdom endeavors, whatever your philanthropy is, then you want to find a vehicle or a service platform. And that's where I'm glad that Dave Metcalf is on this call, because there's two arms to this. There is the way that you build your profitable nonprofit, or you build your wealth and you want to fund it. Then the other side is, how do you direct those funds so they go to places that are accountable, that are transparent, that are doing the work, where there's no mission drift. And so there's two sides of that coin, as it were. And so I don't want to spend a lot of time just on the function of building the nonprofit, because we want to talk about some profitability. But a lot of times what happens with people when they build a nonprofit organization, they don't build sustainably because they don't build the infrastructure or the enterprise capacity to be able to handle the vision or the mission. So typically what we basically understand about nonprofits is that, well, we're going to start this nonprofit organization and we're going to give people tax break for giving. But typically in ministry, what happens, we focus solely on partnerships, and partnerships are great. I don't want to minimize that. But what happens is that we say, we're doing this great work. This is our mission. This is who we are. This is our vision. We give our color brochure. We give our videos or whatever to show what we're doing. But our approach to the people, to donors, our partners becomes, we're doing this great work. So what we want you to do, we want you to give us money to support this great work. We'll do the work, and then you'll share the reward in heaven. So it's a matter of a disconnect, because what we're not doing, we're not becoming a service platform. And I know this sounds like semantics, but in the true partnership relationship, what we want to say is, we don't make excuses for who we are. We are a nonprofit. This is our mission. This is what we're wanting to accomplish. And this is our focus. But when you approach a donor or partner, we really want to be able to say, look, what is your great dream? We really ought to ask the question to the donor, what is your philanthropy? What is your great dream? We're going to listen our way to a gift instead of just asking for a gift. And then we say, if our platform can service your philanthropy or your faith, then we can partner together and you can give expression to what you want to accomplish through the service platform of our nonprofit. That what that does, that releases the donor or the partner to be able to get meaningfully involved. And then if you're going to build then you want to build out your transparency, or what we normally say your business plan or your business model. We would want people to be able to drill down in the nonprofit to see if it's sustainable. Is it going to be around for the next several years? How does the money flow? And because people of wealth, they drill down the same for a for-profit investment as they do a nonprofit investment. It's just their ROI is different. The return they're getting, they're not asking for money back in the nonprofit. They're wanting to know, is my gift, or is the donation that I'm giving, is it accomplishing the mission, and is there a good social impact or outcome? That's what they're looking for in their expression. And so we want to build sustainably. So a lot of times what nonprofits don't do well in their building their cases of support to be able to onboard donors is they don't really build an effective business plan where they can show people how that money is working. So you're wanting to start a nonprofit, regardless of what kind of vehicle you're using, you want to make sure that you're transparent enough that people can connect the dots and see exactly how your administrations is working, how your structure is working, are you sustainable, and that you can have measurable outcomes. And so that's how we want to build. We don't want to just have an organization where we can send out a donation letter and we can say, okay, we're doing this work. You gave this money. Here's your money. Now praise the Lord. When you get to heaven, we'll all shout together. That's not going to onboard donors. So we need to think about nonprofits in a transactional way, even though we're doing nonprofit work, if that makes sense. So in saying that, because I want to get to the actual funding pieces of it, there's several ways that you can fund your charitable work. You can do business and you can create wealth through your investments, and then you pay your taxes, and then you have your net gains. And once you've paid your taxes and satisfied the government, you can do anything with your profits you want to. In fact, there's some liberty in being able to do your corporate responsibility. That's what corporations do. You take Coca-Cola, UPS, or whatever, and you see them giving money to this charity or that charity. That they do it in a measure called partnership. In other words, they're not trying to reinvent an organization. Maybe your model would be, I don't want to build a nonprofit. I can connect in partnership with a nonprofit, and that platform services what I want to accomplish, so I can channel my money to that nonprofit without having to run this nonprofit. I take my profits, and I'm able to give out of my corporate responsibility. So you're taking your business and you're constructing your corporate responsibility to where you're managing your funds out of your for-profit business, and you're dispersing those funds out of your corporation to the things that matter to you. So partnership sometimes is a great way to go, where you don't have to create another entity yourself. But if you want to create an entity, you got to determine what kind of entity do I want to create. And with every nonprofit entity in their structure, what takes place is the way money flows becomes, it matters. That's what's important. So there are, before we stop here, I want to be able to share different ways you can do that. But let me share my screen with you, and I'm going to take you through a couple of quick things here. You'll have to excuse me my age. I'm kind of a little bit IT challenged. Okay, so I'm trying to get to. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so in the first thing you do is you have to determine what kind of nonprofit you're wanting to create. So you've got to determine the type of nonprofit. If you're gonna be a foundation, a private foundation, a public charity, or however you're going to structure, and that's one discussion you'll have, what best suits you for what you want to accomplish. And then you're going to have to draft your articles of incorporation. You got to register with the state first, because you don't incorporate with the federal government, you incorporate with the state. And so you go through you file for your corporation papers. You're going to have your objectives and what you want to accomplish. And then once you're incorporated, you want to get your EIN number, which is your employer identification number, your TIN, your tax identification number. All that number it's like the corporation's social security number. Like you have social security, that's the way the government tracks you in your taxes and your money. The EIN or the TIN is the way that they track the corporation. Then you're going to apply. You're going to apply at the state. You're going to get your corporation papers, and then you're going to apply for your EIN tax number. Now I'm going through this kind of quickly because I want to get to the funding part. But this is the journey that you take, and then once you're approved, you fill out a 1023. You go to an attorney, which is I advise is better, because if you start to try to organize your own, that 1023 process can be very, very tedious. And so you're going to get your 501c3 if that's what you're doing in your corporation, or you're going to create your donor advised fund or your charitable remainder trust fund or whatever entity. And then the IRS gives you, if you're going to form your nonprofit, their IRS gives you what we call a determination letter, which is really a predetermination letter. And so what they've done, you have vetted yourself and gotten approval from the IRS that says, we have looked at this corporation and we have determined that this corporation qualifies for tax donations. And so it's a predetermination letter, because you have to remember the burden of proof on any charitable gift is never on the corporation that receives it. It's on the donor that gives it. So if you get audited, it's always the donor or the donor's responsibility to prove that their charitable gift qualifies. So if you're a corporation and you've been predetermined as a nonprofit corporation, you've gone through those steps, you have predetermined that for your donors. So when the IRS says that this corporation has this determination, then if you're audited, you don't have to go through that 1023 process, because if you got audited and you didn't give it to a corporation, a nonprofit corporation, you would go through that 1023 process, tedious process, just to prove your donation was one that could be accepted as a tax donation. So so then you get your 501c3, and then you're open for business. I don't want to go through all this now, but these are really at the workshop we can talk about some of this. These are the steps. You draft your articles, you draft your bylaws. That's how you're going to operate your corporation. You incorporate with the state, you obtain your EIN, and you apply for your recognition. And so these are just some of the different types of organizations that are nonprofits. Some nonprofits can't give, aren't predetermined to give tax breaks for donations. Some do. And it depends on how they're structured. So we won't go into the minutia of all this. I just want you to see that there is about 23 to 26 different types of nonprofits, not counting the funds that you can set up for yourself. So a lot of people say, how do I build it sustainably? How am I going to make it profitable? The first thing that happens is a lot of people think that a nonprofit cannot make profit, and that's not true. A nonprofit can make profit, and as long as its profits are captured in a nonprofit, they're captured in its objective. So you're not prevented from making money in a nonprofit. It's just the money is captured in the corporation, and can only be used for the objectives that are in your nonprofit filings. So that means that the way you take money out is captured. So you can't use a nonprofit for a tax shelter. You do that, you're going to go into the cell ministry because you'll end up going to jail. But you can only draw money out of a nonprofit for yourself would be if you were an employee, you worked through compensation, whether it's cash or non-cash compensation. So if you're going to, as a business person, if you're going to put all your money into a nonprofit and operate it, once your money's put there, it is captured within the objectives of the nonprofit, and you can't pull it out for yourself or be personally inured. And most of you probably already know that, but you need to understand that because that's going to determine what kind of funds you're going to set up. I want to go through this. The next thing you want to do, this is where we really talk about building, doing your capacity building. In other words, a part of becoming profitable is your enterprise capacity, and the way that you're structured. Is it going to be able to handle your administrations and handle your money? So in a nonprofit, here's one thing I want things important to understand, that your customer in a nonprofit is not your same as your client. Your customer in a nonprofit is your donor. That's the person that's your customer. Your client is the end user. So that means if you're helping people in, a drug rehab program or whatever, you're building churches or you're doing medical missions, the people that receive the work that you do, the end user, that is your client. That is not your customer. That's who you are servicing, because you don't have billables. You don't have, your deliverables are not your billables where you get money back. What's unique about a nonprofit is that you have flexible income with fixed expenditures, with no billables. You're not providing a commodity or a service. You are providing a spiritual service, don't get me wrong, but you're not billing for the service or the commodity. So your income in a nonprofit is not through your billables like you would in a business. So the art of a nonprofit budgeting and sustainability in building your enterprise capacity is how do you take care of your fixed expenditures that come every day, your rent, your payroll, those things, and yet your income is flexible because nobody is paying for the service or the commodity that you've transactionally done. So you can't bill them and say, hey, you owe me this. So there's an art to building in your capacity that type of budget, which is different than your business budget. So once you establish your organizational readiness, you build out your capacity, then you're set. Now you're going to have people you're going to pay. You're going to have to get donations, or you're going to have some kind of vehicle, whether it's product, whether it's some organizations, they sell books, they sell product, they do coaching, they do different things to bring revenue in. And again, that's one way of bringing revenue into a nonprofit through different channels. So, but they're not paying for a service, and so you can do a lot of profitable things in your nonprofit, building income streams, but yet that all of that income is captured within the objectives. So what I want you to see with that is don't swallow the myth that you cannot have in your structure, that you can't have profitability. So let me share this one thing about donors and partners. See how we're doing here on time. So donors and partners are different. They're the same, but they're different. And you say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, all donors are partners, and all partners give money, but it's just like saying pie and dessert. You know, pie is a dessert, cake is a dessert, but all dessert is not pie. All dessert is not cake. So what you have to understand, and when you go to try to onboard 6 and 7 figure gift donors over a period of time, that they're going to give, you know, $1 million to $5 million to $10 million over a period of years, the way they drill down and how they look at you and how you onboard them is different than onboarding a partner that just, you know, just believes in your mission. They believe in you. So you construct this nonprofit and they believe in you, and they're going to partner with you because they believe in you. They're going to send you money. A donor is going to be more connected to the mission of your corporation and the outcomes more than they're necessarily connected to you. It's not that, so that I'm not saying they won't be connected to you, but their drill down is different. So the way that you onboard a donor is going to be a little different, have a different nuance than just the way you onboard partnerships. Partnerships are top-down driven. So, you know, you get a partner, they believe in you, they send money, you get their newsletter, they come to your meetings, but donors have their own world, so they're bottom-up driven. What that means is, you know, a person of wealth who is a donor in the nonprofit world, they'll say, well, you know, what they believe in your corporation, what you're doing. So they'll say, well, I'm going to give, you know, $500,000 to your corporation. They're going to call their friend. Joe's going to call Jim, and he's going to say, hey, Jim, I want you to know that I just gave a $500,000 gift here. I have a presence here now in what they're doing. How much are you going to give? Donors have a tendency to drive each other to onboard to your nonprofit and your mission more than partners don't necessarily do that as much as they connect to you personally. A donor is looking at the platform to say, is the vision and the mission of the platform support the philanthropy that I have and the faith that I have? And is it sustainable? Is it going to be around? So the way they drill down is a little bit different. So the way that you onboard a donor is a little bit different than you do a partner. But all donors, we want them eventually to become partners connected some way. And we want all partners to be donors. We want them to give. I hope that makes some sense to you. So I want to get into, we're not going to get into all this. I'm sorry, I should have sanitized this a little bit better. So let's talk a little bit about the different ways that you can fund your nonprofit. The first thing you need to do is, once you know that the donors or partners are going to be they're your true customer, or maybe you don't want to go that route. You want to create your own mechanism where you take your wealth and you can distribute it, but you have a say in the way that you distribute your wealth. You've amassed some wealth. So that's going to be, you want to use a different platform for that. So what happens in building your nonprofit, you have to begin to ask yourself the question, if you're going to be profitable and sustainable, what is the cost of my partner or my donor acquisition? Just like in business, you say, what is the cost of customer acquisition? So is what you're investing your money in, and your time and your energy, and you're building your cases of support and your communicative tools. What is it costing me to onboard a donor to me? And then is what I'm doing and paying to do that, is that effective enough bringing in the donor or the partner that I want? and the money that I need to run my nonprofit. So let's talk about funds just a little bit here. I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen for just a moment because I want to interact with some of you. Is that there is the short way to onboard funds in a nonprofit, and then there is the long haul. When you talk about creating endowments, getting grants, doing grant writing, you know, there's an art to all of that, and there's specific things that you can do to all of that. That is the slow. That's going to be the slow journey, even though it can have big rewards in it. So one way you might want, let's say that you just want to start, you're going to either start your own nonprofit, you need to know all of those things, but maybe you don't want to start a nonprofit, but you'd like to do, you know, you have a partnership with somebody, you'd like to create a donor advised fund. That means you take your wealth, and the donor advised fund is a separately identified fund or an account that is maintained and operated by a Section 501c3 organization. So you're going to find a sponsoring organization, but usually, typically, when you give to an organization, they completely control that gift and where it goes. With a donor advised fund, the difference is the organization has legal control over it. However, the donor or the donor's representative retains advisory privileges with respect to the distribution of funds and the investment of assets in an account. So maybe you have a nonprofit that is willing to partner with you, yet you want to be able to have a voice to where your money goes. See, a lot of people say, well, if I give to a nonprofit, I can't give through it to a certain people. I can't direct it, or I'm evading taxes. You can direct it through a donor advised fund. So you're able to create this fund. Then this fund is something that you can put in an investment account. It can actually grow before the money's dispersed. And the beauty about a donor advised fund is that you can get an immediate tax deduction, and yet you can still grow the fund, and yet you have advisory privileges to kind of direct how that's going to go to different places. And so it's a way to assure that you're not going to get caught with capital gains. And so you can make a tax deductible donation. You can grow your donation tax free. You can support charities you love now and over time, and have a voice in it. And so the potential tax benefit of creating a donor advised fund is that if you donate cash with a check or a wire transfer, you generally are eligible for income tax deduction of up to 60% of your adjusted gross income. So it's a matter of the long and short game of corporations is how you manage money flow and how you get tax advantage. At least in the states, that is the way that it is. So you also, it simplifies your record keeping. If you want to do a donor advised fund, not only do you eliminate capital gains on long-term appreciated assets, but with a donor advised fund, you don't have to keep track of every gift, acknowledgement from every charity you support. So you don't have to get all these letters. What you do, you just have the receipts from your donor advised fund contributions. So it's all housed in the donor advised fund, and you don't have to track all of that. You use your receipt from the donor advised fund for your taxes, and makes it a lot cleaner and a lot easier. So that's one thing you can do. Or you might want to set up a charitable remainder trust. So you want to do charitable work, but you want to be able to give in endowments, or you want to be able to give money. You don't want to set up a private foundation, because the private foundation is very restrictive. You know, you can do that, but it is restrictive. But you want to be able to give money to your favorite charities and direct money to your work, but yet you still want to make income. So and with a charitable remainder trust, you can avoid capital gains. You can set up a charitable remainder trust. You can allocate funds to charities. You can also, your children can become the trustees of that trust. And then what remains out of the trust when it's over can go to the charities, but you can draw income. Or you might want to set up a charitable gift annuity system where people who are retiring or having to pay their RMDs, and so they want to give money, but yet they still need some income. There's companies that can service that. There's one called PG Calc out of, not that I'm doing an advertisement, but out of California, which will completely manage for you that charitable gift annuity. So you can actually write annuities out of your nonprofit. The money comes to you. There's the tax advantage to them, but there's an annuity side of it. So the people can get some regular income, and they can earn right now, I think they can earn 6 to 8%, and yet you control the money that comes in building out and funding your charity. We say you can do private foundation, or you can do endowments. There's endowment contracts. Those are the long-term gain. I just worked with a nonprofit here today consulting, and they got a $1 million gift. And so they have it. So what you do is you get your endowment, you put it with an investment advisor, they grow that endowment, and then you can run your operations off of the income of the endowment, and then you can manage the endowment toward the charity. And or so you can create your own endowment process internally, or you can receive endowments or grants. A lot of times, if you want grant money from a nonprofit, and we just got a couple of minutes here, but if you want to get a grant, you have your grant or your endowment. Then what you do is you don't have to write all those grants first. You want to go online. You want to look at those people that are doing grants. You want to look at the 990. You want to go next to the back page, and you find out who the trustees are, because they're the ones that govern where the money goes. You want to reach out and build a relationship with the trustees. So you're really going to get approval before you ever write the grant. That's just one of the nuances that you can do where you're more successful, not just writing all these grants and paying a grant writer and maybe being eliminated and never getting any money. You want to build relationally to donors and to trustees, and you can get permission actually before you onboard the money. So you can do corporate responsibility out of your business where you take care of it after tax. You can create a nonprofit, or you can do the donor advised funds, the charitable remainder trust. So anyway, I'm running out of time. We need to take some questions. I hope we didn't go so fast that we just muffled through it. But Karen, I think that's just like a real quick overview of different ways. And then the different tools that you have. Karen's masterful at that, is, through Facebook, through Instagram, through there's different marketing tools that you use to onboard people for donors. You can also do, product marketing. Marketing is a big key to how you become sustainable, or you create businesses inside your nonprofit that begin to build funds, and you make money, but the money's plowed into your objective. Don't make the mistake of thinking that a nonprofit cannot make profit. That is a myth. That is not the truth. And so anyway, I hope some of that was helpful. Dave, he works a lot with organizations and actually moving money to nonprofits that are approved to help empower them. And that's the other big side of it. If you don't have people like Dave, you really need to interact with Dave Metcalf, because he can tell you what the processes are of how they vet a nonprofit or an organization or a ministry to determine if the money that he oversees, if that money can go to that charity, or nonprofit. And so someone like Dave is invaluable, because he will show you what you need to present and how you need to present it to maybe get approval for money that would come to you otherwise, that would never come to you because of the way that you're building your case of support or how you're presenting yourself or how you're managing your funds.
Yeah, that's awesome, David. This has been super, super helpful and educational. I really appreciate it. And Dave Metcalf, my husband, of course, all of you know that. Dave, I'd love to give you an opportunity to share a few of your thoughts on this topic tonight as well. I know what David Briggs has shared has been a blessing.
Sure. Thank you very much, David. Thank you. And for all of you that are listening, you can see the importance of being at his workshop coming up, because this is similar to something that happened with Karen and I recently. We had a sprinkler repair system for the optimal watering system of our lawn, and they created a 2-cycle approach. So the first time the sprinkler comes on, it just gets the soil opening up so that the second time it comes on, it can really take it in. So this is like the first time David's talking to you and you're getting a little bit of the sprinkling, which may have felt like a deluge or like you're drinking from a fire hose. David, you've got so many things to say. This is like a 8-hour session you did, I think, in one. So you can see the importance of coming to the workshop or getting online and doing the live stream part of it, so you can catch these incredible elements of David's teaching, because it's very thorough. And I appreciate that, because most organizations don't take the time to have a plan for their communication, and to just probably piggyback a little bit on what David is saying. One of the things, the important things I look at is the heart purpose of why somebody is either raising money or they're requesting money. And this is really a spiritual principle that is found in 2 Corinthians 9:8, that we're told not to give under the compulsion of somebody. Don't be intimidated. Don't be pressured. Don't be forced, because that is not Jesus. But give according to the purpose that's in your heart. What is your heart saying? And that purpose sometimes comes with our own thoughts, our own desires, that we really want to help somebody. And sometimes the Lord puts a burden upon our heart, and that becomes a purpose where we feel like we've been like enlightened to a purpose. And it's because of what we're seeing in our own heart, we want to give. And sometimes organizations, you can trace them back, nonprofit organizations, it started with an individual that just wanted to help. We've got Michael and Mercedes Bell that are a great example. They went over, they did ministry one time, and because of what they saw, their heart just went out, it got extended. And the purpose they're giving started happening because of the purpose in their heart. So I would say what David said about being clear about your purpose and the way you communicate the idea, the ministry. I remember Dennis Vallon. He's an incredible donor writer, and Dennis would write these beautiful letters that would really talk about the ministry. He would build out all the different angles of what was happening. And at the very end, the ministry was more important than the money, but people could see how their specific gift could help that ministry move forward. So it's even the purpose in your heart. And then I'm using that example to say, being clear about how you communicate that purpose so that people can actually attach to that same kind of purpose. And if they don't, it's okay, because it's something that's maybe not in their heart. And so I just want to thank you, David, and just piggyback on the idea that the purpose of why a person is either collecting money or giving money is very important, is tied to the heart.
That's awesome, Dave. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
And that's the thing, money follows ministry.
Yes.
So it's not about money. Money's a vehicle. It's a tool. And I just want to say one other thing, Karen, about that is that we will give at the workshop a lot of different tools, websites, places they can go where they can get the actual on step one. They'll have some good tools in their hands to begin to build and filter that and go on that journey.
Oh, that's awesome. And Dennis is actually on tonight. Dave, I don't know if you know that. Maybe you heard me do a shout out, but we are so blessed. They're going to be at the conference this weekend. And so Dennis, we're so grateful to have you. And we definitely want to let people know who you are. so that if they want to have a visit with you, that they can. And so thanks so much, guys. We actually have quite a few questions from people. And so I'm going to start here. David Briggs, I'm going to start with you on this. This is from Andrew, and then I'll pop it over to the other Dave as well for some comments. He says, if a ministry has resource products like books, courses, etc., should they sell those through the nonprofit or the LLC owned by the for-profit? What do you think, David Briggs?
That really depends on how you're structured. If you only have a single structure or nonprofit, then you don't have the advantage of your LLC. I think a lot of the for-profit stuff, if you do have a 501c2 or an LLC or a disregarded LLC that's a for-profit entity, it's good to handle your for-profit mechanisms through that entity as opposed to just your parent company. And the truth is, I would have to look at how you're structured to really give a real definitive answer about that. But the quick answer is you can do it through either, but it's probably best to do your for-profit stuff through your disregarded LLC that is a for-profit entity, or your C Corp.
Awesome. Dave, any additional thoughts on that?
Well, I think what David said is actually very accurate. You know, when you qualify for a 501c3 status, that means your organization actually operates exclusively for either charitable or educational or religious, even science, literature, art, and all these various activities provide you a way to actually communicate and impact communities or take a product. So when you're taking that particular product, the product can actually make a profit, because you remember David said earlier that a nonprofit can make a profit. And you can make a profit on that, and you can actually turn that back into your reservoir bucket. So you have more to reach into to actually use as an expenditure into the activities that the 501 actually allows you to do. You can even use it to conduct research. You can use it to support institutions. It's really powerful how you can move money out of the 501 even into other areas.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And your disregarded LLC, the reason they call it disregarded is because the single member is the nonprofit entity. So when it passes through that for-profit entity, it still is tax. It still doesn't affect a tax because it goes to the tax exempt organization.
Awesome, guys. Okay, David Metcalf, I'm going to start with you on this one and then pop it over to David Briggs. Are there benefits to, this is from Andrew, are there benefits to a nonprofit joining a financial integrity firm like ECFA, or is that simply a PR position?
I think there's a benefit, but it's certainly not a requirement. Most of the organizations that we give funding to are not a part of that. And the key is to be a relational person that communicates integrity. And for example, David said that God is a shareholder. So I completely agree with that. The ownership is God's. God is essentially given us everything that we steward, and the 501 is just a temporal way to control that money and put it out. But then the way we do it is important. And like for my side, when I give money, one of the things that I do is I look at the IRS website, and I can take a look at the 990, and I can take a look and see if they filed. I just had an organization this week that they received their EIN, their nonprofit status was revoked, and I just gave them $5,000. And that's a big mistake on my part, because I'm not supposed to give money to someone who has a revoked status. So I called them up and I said, hey, you may not be aware, but gosh, I saw this. I don't know if it got resolved. And that started a whole chain reaction, because then they got a hold of their CPA, they got a hold of their attorney. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because they're not under the pressure of an organization, but I can tell the integrity of their heart. They're wanting to do absolutely the right thing. And the moment that I talked to them about it, there was just an instant, oh my goodness, we didn't know that. And we want to take care of it immediately. And they're going to let us know in a couple of weeks how that turned out. So I would say that on the integrity side, the way you communicate things, you could say that we follow all the Integris guidelines that are common for nonprofits. And we'd like to even offer our annual report, our board of directors, our board members, trustee holders. So communication, things like that are really helpful. And that's important because that's really getting to the heart-to-heart communication with the person who's going to maybe potentially give you money and not just treat you like some number, and they're going to go out and look and see if you're actually certified under an organization. So I'd say they're both valuable, but just doing it yourself and making sure you do all those important elements of like an audit, like you can have a CPA audit and you can show that you've got integrity to where the money went. We have some organizations that tell us specifically what their operational expenses are. So for example, they'll say out of every dollar, 98 cents goes to the field, and we keep back like 2 pennies. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you so much. David Briggs, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I agree completely with him, because one thing you never want to be with your nonprofit, you never want to be stealth. You want to be transparent. If you can show transparency, whether it's through a 990, which is a great way if you're in the 990 business. If you're not, you can, you want to be transparent. Those other things, like you can join the BBC, but the BBB, excuse me, that doesn't mean that you're doing great business because you have the BBB registration. Those registrations are good, like you're getting the good housekeeping seal of approval from these organizations in compliance, but that doesn't necessarily mean relationally that's who you really are. And so your relational, I agree 110% with Dave on that the relational pieces of it and the transparency pieces of it are really more important than having a list of clubs that you belong to.
That's awesome, David. Thank you. We had a question from Minonette and Victoria, and they are wondering if the workshop will be available online. Absolutely. Well, actually, 2 different questions. The workshop will be available online. You can register for that at wealthbuilders.org/event. There is actually the team just put the link in the chat, and use the code WB200 and you can attend the live stream for just $97. And that's incredible. We have over 20 hours of teaching, and you can watch it for up to 3 weeks. And so definitely take advantage of that. And then Minonette is wondering if we're going to have the webinar available. Anybody that has registered for this webinar will be sent a link to be able to rewatch this webinar. Okay, so we have got a question here from Derek, and we just have a couple minutes, guys. So I'm going to ask this to you, but if we can kind of be concise with our answers, I could squeeze in one more question after this one. Derek says, I have a nonprofit working in Uganda supporting children in school and identifying the issues that stop the parents from paying the fees themselves, with the intention where possible to provide them with the training and resources to make them profitable. I'm currently in the process of purchasing retail businesses and using the profits from those businesses to fund the aims of the nonprofit. I'm currently seeking donors and investors to fund the acquisition of the first retail business. Any tips on how to find the right people, those God has ordained to provide the funds? David Briggs, let me start with you on that one.
That is just real simple, is that the way that you do that is you're going to have to find somebody who has that same purposeful passion that you do, and they're willing to fund it because they see that they're funding the startup with not low risk capital for you because it's a donation, but they see it going through a for-profit to sustain a business. That's a win. Most business people, you find kingdom-minded people, they'll jump all over that because it'll make sense. That's basically what we do in Tricord, is we do all of our nonprofit social development through businesses and profitable means.
Awesome. Dave Metcalf?
Yes, I'd say start with friends of yours that have money, that have some money sitting around they're not like handling, because money has a mission. And if it's sitting around like discretionary money or idle, It can be just like doing nothing. So sometimes when you talk to your friends, you can say, hey, I want to share something because it's a relational thing. And sometimes that sparks an interest like, oh, actually, I got an extra $100 or $1,000. That's like, really, you're doing what? I could help you with that. And so you're looking to maybe like the low hanging fruit of friendship, where you have that little entry point where you can talk about the idea and there's like a little bit of a heart connection and they got some money sitting around. So I've seen that work really well.
That's awesome. Okay, we are like out of time, but I do want to ask this one more question, guys. So just I'll ask it, and if you can give like a one-line answer, it'd be great. This is from Victoria. How much further into a business should an organization consider to establish a nonprofit arm? David Briggs?
I wasn't sure if I understood that completely. I think you consider that based on your objective and what you want to do nonprofit. You can start that immediately through corporate responsibility without even forming a nonprofit.
Wow, cool. David Metcalf?
Yeah, that's very good. You want to take a look at the scalability of where you're at and just see what you can do in the time process of what David Briggs just said.
Awesome.
Baby steps. Kind of
Yeah,
like
baby
faith to
steps.
faith, glory to glory, strength to strength.
And Karen, real quickly, I want to urge everybody to come to this weekend, because they're going to look at the world together, transactional profit and nonprofit. Then they're going to get a lot clearer picture of how those harmonize, instead of just a webinar isolated on nonprofits. They're going to get a clear picture of how they flow back and forth from all the speakers that are there.
That's so good. And you guys, these guys are such gems. I mean, all of our coaches, we've got Troy on, we got Frank on. I'm telling you, these people are in the game and they are doing this because they want to help you in the areas that you want to go toward or you want to have success in. Everybody on this call's got plenty to do, but our heart is to help you. And David Briggs and David Metcalf, you have definitely communicated that tonight. And we've got hands-on workshops, meaning that I know one that David Briggs is doing, he's going to meet, we're going to limit one of our workshops to just 10 people because it's hands-on. So if you want to have time with David Briggs and just say, help me with my nonprofit and getting it set up, you're going to have the opportunity to do that. David Metcalf is teaching a session, Dream to Destiny, life-changing. Also, he has a very small group, up to only 10 people. It's called a Clarity Survey. He takes you through a process that's going to help you identify your priorities so that when you leave this workshop, you're going to know these are the things I need to hit, not 20 things, but these are the things that I need to hit. So Frank's talking about accounting and just making that simple. Troy is there with his amazing wife, Eileen, anything real estate. He's going to be just there available for you. So this is an amazing workshop, and it's really one of my favorites that we do. There is such a sweet spirit at this workshop. And so we've got Colin Carr, we've got Jeff Vanderwall, which you've all heard from. Of course, Billy, he's preparing for this weekend, and Becky. So please choose to be a part of it if a business or a nonprofit is something that you want to either start or you want to grow to the next level. So thank you again, David and David. This is so cool to have two Davids. You guys are amazing. And just on behalf of Billy and Becky, again, they send their love to you. They can't wait to see you this weekend. Go to wealthbuilders.org/events. Get registered if you're not already registered. God bless you and have an amazing night. Thank you.